Some of the other outcomes of security governance, things like a strategic alignment, being able to align information security, as we said before, many times before, with business strategies to meet the organization's objectives. It working with the reduction of risk through risk management to reduce the visual impacts on information resources to an acceptable level, to gain value of the delivery, right? And, which is, again, back to optimizing the investment. We can see performance measurements. We can, one of the goals of or outcomes of security governance is that we can measure, monitor, and report on the information security processes and how those processes meet the SMART objectives, which are the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound objectives. Resource management is another outcome where we get efficient and effective use of the information security. And again, process integration, which is the integration of management's assurance processes into the security. Now, integration is the idea of integrating all the relevance assurance factors to make sure that the processes are operating as intended from end to end. The following should be considered to achieve real integration. Number one is to determine all the organizational assurance functions that are there. Coordinate those assurance functions to have more complete security. In other words, don't treat them all as standing alone. In today's world, many of them overlap. I made the example of firewalls and intrusion detection. They overlap in that they're looking at the same data, the same packets, traveling on the network, but doing different things, but enhancing each other's performance. And having just said that, one of the other ones then is to create overlaps between the roles and responsibilities of those assurance functions. Now, in the discussion of effective information security governance, the goal of information security, again, is to support organizations in their objectives, making it also of good value to the organization. That means there should be a framework to help guide the development and management of such information security programs. Now, again, we're talking about kind of this planning, the development and management. The framework might consist of things like having a comprehensive security strategy. You might also make sure you have the security policies there to address each aspect of the strategy for controls and regulation. The framework should have an organizational structure that is devoid of conflicts of interest and should have sufficient monitoring processes to ensure that you can check on compliance and to get feedback about that process. As I mentioned earlier, that when we look at governance, it should be a top-down approach. That means that really the board of directors and senior management are the ones who effectively have governance over information security. The upper management should know about the organization's information assets and how critical that information is to their business, especially in today's world. And this is also probably a good place to have a comprehensive risk assessment and a business impact analysis done on the IS or the information services, so we can see how that equates to the priorities of what it takes for this company or organization to be successful. Remember, the term top-down means that we're putting these policies into place, this governance at the top, so that there's real power in the policies and procedures and what comes down from the top level to basically affect how the company is run. Now, senior management then should be involved with the effective security governance. In other words, they should lead by example. That means that in the senior management, they should have documents that talk about what the security governance is. Maybe penalties for what happens if you're not in compliance. They have to be defined. These things have to be communicated and enforced. And again, it has to be from the top down. Part of the roles and responsibilities of management might be to create a steering committee, which would be a group of senior representatives of each of the affected groups that are working together to achieve consensus on priorities and trade-offs. Now, what's that mean? Priorities and trade-offs. Priorities start off with saying, I'm not going to come in from my group and say, my group is the most important to this company because we order the staples for office supplies. And have another group say, hey, we're the ones that run the firewall. We're in the security. Without us, your information, right? Okay, so you get the picture, right? We have to be able to come to a consensus and come up with a series of priorities. And sometimes there's a trade-off on what different priorities are. But that's part of what the steering committee's job is to do, is without fighting, infighting, is to be able to achieve the consensus on those types of things. One thing to do is to make sure you have a Chief Information Security Officer. You should have one, whether or not there's anybody officially with that title, but a person whose job lies on the technical side. And of course, technically you could say that the CEO is the Chief Information Security Officer, because ultimately the CEO or president has all the legal responsibilities about what that company does. But again, to have a person with the title who can help in the decision-making process of best how to deal with security issues, with all of this planning. So anyway, so consider having that as a titled responsible position. And again, it should be one that's at the top. The last thing to look at here is the enterprise architecture, and that's the responsible part of documenting the IT assets in a structured manner to be able to facilitate having an understanding, to be able to manage and plan for IT investments. This can also facilitate the information for the current state and to help you in the optimization for moving towards a future state or having a roadmap for changes and improvements in technologies. One of the things about an enterprise architecture is it's designed to help clarify what might be a complex set of technology choices that you have to face in today's organization by letting you see it at that kind of 10,000-foot view and be able to see how different components can interact with each other.